So,
Okay.
Peyton, it's great to meet you, sir. Thank you for taking a minute out today.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me.
You bet. So, before we get into your work, I want to know this. 5 years ago, this pandemic was changing our lives, doing so many things to the world. How did you get through that era, and how has it affected the way that you do work today?
Honestly, where I lived, I was living in Utah at the time. Had just dropped out of college and I was just working. And it didn't affect me too. I mean, the biggest effect it had on me was I did lose an uncle, who he did have a comorbidity, but I did unfortunately lose one of the uncles I was closer to. So that was that was tough. But other than that, when it came to like my day-to-day life and everything like that, it didn't affect me too much. The laptop that we're talking on, or that I'm talking to on right now, was one that I had to get because my job made me work from home. But Utah didn't really have too much restrictions going on, from the COVID lockdown. So all it really did is made it to where I went hiking a lot more with my buddies because some stuff did shut down. So we were like, dude, we're bored. What do I go do? So we went hiking a lot more. But luckily I wasn't too affected, by it, I would say. Other than a family death, but that is a part of life. It's not like my family is dropping off like flies. It was just
Sure.
it was an unfortunate situation, but other than that, nothing massive for my that's permeated to today.
Yeah.
So
So let's get into the work that you do. Let's get an idea of what you do on a daily basis. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at a school. It's career day, and one of the kids wants to know what you do for a living. How do you explain it?
okay, so what I do for a living is right now I during the day I go hop on roofs and I try to see if there's any see if there's any leaks, if they need to be repaired, or if the whole roof needs to be taken off and they need to put a new roof on. So I do roof sales and inspections, and I do and actually today I'm actually doing I myself am doing a repair, so I'll do like smaller repairs myself. And then at night, or when I have free time, basically, I am starting a book creation platform called AllTales.com, where you can write, illustrate, format, and print on demand all in one screen in one sitting, even to where you don't have to go to a bunch of different platforms, and try to piece it all together. We're putting it all into one platform, and to help people with that, I the way I advertise that is I help people online to discover their family history and discover their family stories, so that way no one has an excuse as to saying, "Oh, I don't have anything I'd turn into a book," and I go, "That's baloney. You got some pretty awesome family stories, even if you don't realize it." So.
That's wonderful. So talk to me a little bit about what you wanted to do when you were 12 years old. What was your dream life?
Oh, if it was 12-year-old Peyton's dream life right now, I'd be part of the hopefully not 2-7 Oakland or Raiders right now. I'd be the quarterback for the Raiders right now, and hopefully we wouldn't be 2-7, or whatever the record is, 2-6. I don't know what they're terrible, but
Yeah.
um, if you talked to me before, like up until probably my freshman year of college, it was football, 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 football. Like that's just all I was going to be doing in life. So.
So talk to me a little bit about this platform and books. What what was it about growing up that got you into books and got you into, being innovative and creating this platform? How did all these pieces come together?
So yeah, I mean, I won't try to pretend to be something I'm not. I'm not much of a reader, honestly.
Okay.
Other than the scriptures, which even then I still feel like I'm choking down to read because I just don't my brain doesn't care to read.
Yeah.
And I want to be. It's one of those things I wish I was a reader. I'm just not, and I try to be. But I do like good storytelling. Um, but ultimately, what got me into this is I wanted to. I'm very I'm always working on a project. I always want to have something I'm working on besides my day job,
Yeah.
something that I can, yeah, just something I can have a before and after, be proud of. And I just got done with some home renovation work, and I was kind of twiddling my thumb for a week or two, and I got the idea. I was like, well, my grandpa died a few years ago. I'd love to. He really inspired me, and I'm gonna have kids one day, and so I'd love to make a children's book about him, just for my kids and for my cousins and my siblings to all have for our for his great grandchildren. All of his grandchildren know and brag about Grandpa Kane because World War II vet, awesome guy, and so. I went online to try to see if there's just a quick little one-stop shop website. Exactly like I was looking for what AllTales is, a one-stop shop website where I can just really quickly whip together a book, and I couldn't really find anything that was cheap and affordable. The closest thing out there was like Shutterfly, but that was like $50. It was like, yeah, it was like 50, $60 for a really poorly put together book. And I still had to go to other platforms to do the writing, to do the illustrating. I had to come over and copy and paste it all over. And so, yeah, so that's where I got the idea. I was like, well, there's nothing out there. I want this. And I, through some Google searching, through some interviewing of people and validating the idea, I found out that a lot of people really want this. And so I
Wow.
decided to find a business partner who knew how to code, and we're off to the races now.
So did you finally make the book that you wanted to make?
I did, yeah. Let me pull it out here. Oh, this bookend that I have is terrible though. Every time I pull a book out, everything falls down. Okay. Yeah, this is let me oh, this is gonna be I have to turn on the brightness here. Here's
Oh, here we go. Cool.
the
Yeah.
book. Yeah, it's The Great Life of Bobby Kane. I and this is at the time when AI was kind of like just AI images were starting to become not complete atrocities or anything like that. And so
Yeah.
the concept was, obviously I want to always pay and support real creatives and artists and stuff like that. However, not everyone is interested in telling their story for the amount of a couple $100 what an artist would charge. I've seen, for a comprehensive book, freelance artists to illustrate that would probably charge about 500-600 bucks
Yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes more, but typically I see about the lowest is about 4 to 5. Um, and so I'm like, well, I don't think that stories are should die off just because those who know them can't afford to pay someone what they deserve to be paid. And
Yeah.
so that's why I think AI kind of has a good pull there, has a good reason there. Not as long as you're not trying to pass yourself off as an artist with
Yeah.
AI. I think that there needs to be a disclaimer in there. But anyway, so that was the idea with AllTales is like, well, we can solve that problem of keeping it cheap and affordable. And so yeah, so that's kind of how that's the first book there, and the AI pictures in there were all different varieties of styles, of cartoon styles and stuff like that. And we've honed it down now to be a lot more exact and consistent. So
So who's been your hero? Who's been that inspirational force that's allowed you to have to have this platform and to do what you've done in your life?
I would say my grandfather and my dad. My grandfather just because I grew up knowing that he fought in World War II, that he's a pretty amazing guy, and I always wanted to make sure that my kids could uh, brag about me the way I brag about, or the way yeah, I brag about my grandpa. I wanted to have that type of influence. And then also my dad died when I was 7, and something that really stood out to me is he at his funeral, it was packed. I'm Mormon. It was at one. We had it in one of our churches, and our chapels are big enough. Like they kind of expand and open up into a basketball court. And I remember it was freaking a packed house, people standing around along the sides, and it's because my dad was a very, very prolific junior league football coach. So, but he was one of those guys to where I remember my grandfather at his dad at his funeral said, "Hey, if you're here because Chris Wilfley had a positive impact on you in the church youth or in football from coaching, please stand up." And about a quarter of the room stood up like that. And so it made me that stood out as a 7-year-old. It just was a very profound moment looking into going, wow, I want to. My dad really wasn't. He was who I thought he was. He was the superhero in the sense that I thought he was. Like everyone thought Chris Wolfley was such a great guy. And so having that moment in my life, as well as just growing up and knowing and bragging about my grandfather, it makes me want to make sure that I can be someone that I can be someone that I can accomplish things that will make my posterity, so to speak, proud and brag about me the way I brag about my dad and my grandpa.
So if you could meet one person alive on the planet right now that you find fascinating, who would you love to meet and talk to?
You said one person alive right now?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't been asked that before. Typically, I'm doing what I do. I'm typically thinking about people who have died. Who do you want to meet
Well,
who's
you could
died?
do that too. We could go back to the ghost. That's fine.
Well, no, I mean this one person alive is going to be interesting. I just shoot. one person, I gotta say, I gotta go back to my football roots and say Peyton Manning.
Yeah,
He is one of those people to where I feel like he is just fascinating, and I'd love to, and he'd be a fun guy. Like, if we're talking meeting, as in you get to hang out for them for an hour or two,
yeah,
going out and you know going to the golf range and hit some, going to the driving range talking or whatever, it's like hanging out. Peyton Manning for sure. Historically though, this is a question when I was on my Mormon mission. I'd always, and we had if I was picking up a missionary who was like picking him up from the airport or whatever, and he's kind of socially awkward, a little shy or whatever. This is the ice breaking question. I'd always ask like, who would you want to see a picture of, who you don't know what they look like, stuff like that. And I would always have to say, except for Jesus, because that's like everyone's go to is like, well,
yeah.
Jesus. I'm like, okay, well, that's the obvious answer. Obviously, let's go with like someone who isn't, you know, who we believe to be God, right? Um, and so I would say. I I think a fascinating person to meet would probably be George Washington. I
Yeah,
think that he was just seeing his mindset and seeing how they thought back then versus how we see them today.
yeah,
Um, I want to see if the idea, the picture that we have of him as being the, one of two greatest U.S. presidents, him and Lincoln being two of the two greatest presidents we've ever had. I would just want to see how it holds up, and so use that as a great like measure in history to say, hey, this is a guy who's kind of become a legend in American history. I want to see how he holds up, and then that way I can have that as context for everyone else who we look at in history as well.
yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's cool. So let me ask you this. What is it that gets you up every day? What is it that the energy that allows you to do this platform, to do your job, to take care of your soul? What is that for you every day?
Well, I have a wife and a kid right now, and so I'd say it's because I want to make sure that they can have the life that my wife and I have dreamed about, talked about. So I would say the understanding that, right, and plus we're a single income household now because my baby is 5 months old now, so my wife is I married Mary Poppins 2.0, and so I let we're having her be the stay-at-home mom because I'm like, hey, you do this. This is what you're phenomenal at. She used to be a nanny and all that stuff. She just loves kids, and so I'm like, this is what you're phenomenal at. Let's have you do what you're best at. Let's not try to outsource that and have us both work just so that we can. You're partially working to afford the nanny with a little bit on top of that, right? And um, so I want to make sure that as a single income household earner in 2025, first off, it's tough. Second off, it is I just want to make sure that we can have the life that we've always dreamed of having. Getting around 100 acres out in more of the countryside here of Tennessee, and be able to, as I always joke about with her, go outside naked and take a pee and not have anyone see me. So I want to be able to have complete visual and audio privacy if I want it. But I want to have, we want to build the home that all of our kids want to come home to. So,
So let me ask you this. If you were to have a dream tonight, run into the 18-year-old version of you, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the decisions you've made, the wisdom you've gained, what advice would you give?
ooh, oh shoot. So you're asking me questions. I never get interviewed. This is awesome. I've never been asked these types of questions before. This is
Awesome.
phenomenal. Um, Man, like if we're to say football, I would say like don't pursue playing quarterback in college.
There you
If it,
go.
I'd say switch to like playing safety or something to where you don't have to be 6'5", you can be 6 foot and you can be fine.
Yeah.
Um, but if we're talking about life, I'd probably say, um, you know, don't. I would say don't stress about dating while you're in Utah. I always joke with my wife that God was keeping me busy until she was ready. And when I met her in Florida after I lived in Utah for about 4 years, and so once I moved out of Utah, I met my wife in Florida, and I was 24, she was 19. So I was like, yeah, you weren't legally able for me to meet you anyway. So God was keeping me busy until we were both in a spot where we can meet and date. And so. I'd probably tell myself, hey, don't stress about any girls who you want to date in Utah. It doesn't matter.
Right on. So let me ask you this. If you were to walk into a room of everybody that knows you from your roofing company and even everybody that knows you from your website and building their story and their book, and you were to walk in front of that room and tell them a fun story about your life, maybe the first concert you went to, the best sport game, football game you ever witnessed, jumping out of an airplane, a story that would humanize you a little bit to that room of people that know you in a business sense. What would be a good story, a fun story you would tell that room?
Oh, I could tell him plenty of embarrassing moments from when I played football. Like in my first ever varsity game, I was a quarterback and punter, and so the coach was like, "Well, you're a mobile quarterback, so we'll have you, with the option of like it could be a run or it could be a pass or you could punt it, And I just tried to. He told me to punt it on this play, and I booted it as high as I could. And went 50 yards up in the air, 5 yards forward, 10 yards back. And it was, and literally just like my stands, they weren't even mad. They were just laughing. I just heard all the fans in the stands laughing. So there's that. I also have like a great moment from also in high school when it wasn't football season. I wanted to get my adrenaline kicks. Me and my buddies would go out and do shenanigans like doorbell ditching, our youth leaders who we knew had a little bit of anger issues because we knew they'd chase us and whatever stuff like that. And so there was just one time where we doorbell ditched a leader and uh yeah, it's too long of a story, but we doorbell ditched a youth leader, got into a truck. My buddy's pants were around his ankles because he wanted to have his butt out when he's running, so that way he'd be mooning the church leader. But his pants were around his ankles. Run! And we see our church leader turn the corner, bright red face. Nate, get back here! And
Oh
so
no.
it was just stuff like I that story is even better if I go into depth, but for the
Yeah.
sake of the time, it's just I would say just I would tell a lot of the embarrassing stories of me being probably a teenager just trying to have fun and
Yeah.
having fun in the sense of where we weren't going out and drinking and trying to get with girls, but more so just we're trying to go out and get a little bit of a thrill from being chased by someone who we, you know, threw an egg at their car and they're pissed, or we doorbell dish them and stuff like that. Stuff that stupid teenagers do that don't really think about you know, probably shouldn't have thrown eggs. I was pretty messed up. I'd be pretty pissed if someone hit my car with an egg. But it's just
Yeah.
stuff that as a teenager you're like, yeah, it's fine. They can wash it off. Like, no, dude, that's jacked up.
Yeah.
Don't. So,
No, I get it. I totally get it. So when you look at your life right now, everything you've done and accomplished and where you're going, what are you the proudest of?
oh, what am I the proudest of? I would say my daughter. It's kind of a cop out answer as someone who I say cop out as in like when I before I had kids and I'd hear the answer, I'm like, come on, dude. But like now that I look at her and I'm just like I have never done anything better than somehow produce you, and I look at her with the utmost pride and just so there's that. I'd say there's that. I mean, and then if we're talking about actual accomplishments of things I accomplished beyond just doing what nature wants me to do, I'd say I'd probably say starting this business. I starting AllTales because there's just a moment where we kind of put the hard deadline for the Knoxville Book Convention or Book Festival Convention, whatever. It was on September 13th, and so I use that as we kind of use it as a hard deadline to kind of give me and my co-founder some like, hey, like stop, we got to stop putting this off. We got to not put it off, but like we got to stop trying to perfect it. We got to just get it done and get it out, and even if it's ugly. Um, and I remember my wife was taking a photo of me at the booth at that book festival, which was a complete dud and waste of time. They it was I don't know what it was a perfect storm of like terrible marketing. There's a home game here for the University of Tennessee, so everyone's at the game. There weren't people going out and board on a Saturday. And anyway, it was a waste of time financially. But it was. I remember my wife stepping back. She has our baby strapped to her, and she's taking a photo of me at the booth. And I just saw my wife have um the most genuine smile of pride and a little bit of tears come to her eyes, even though she's been the person who understandably has been like, Peyton, you've been working on this forever. What's going to happen? Like, are we going to make some money off this? What's going on? Like, should she's kind of been the voice of like, hey, we rely on you for support, and this is the one thing you're putting a lot of time into, and you've been doing it for a year plus, and there's no money coming in yet. Um, this is just because it took forever to develop. It's very hard to build a completely custom platform. It's a lot easier said than done. There's a
Yeah.
lot of if thens. If the user wants this, then what? And every time there's an if, there tends to be about three or four thens that have a new if with more thens. If that it's tough. So,
Yeah.
so I'd say that moment, the thing I'm most proud of is sticking to this company and building something I'm proud of.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that works with you, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Um, I'd say an accurate perception that probably anyone who watches this interview would also see is that I am a ranter. I give very long answers. Uh, I wrote a book. You might be able to, it's kind of in the background there. I wrote a book just one time, just for kicks and giggles, just to say I did. It was again, I just wanted to, had a lack of projects in my life. So I was like, yeah, I'll write a book. Why not? Just say I did. And I was, it's a little short little historical fiction. And I made the protagonist. I was like, well, what's his flaw? Like as I was writing the story, I had the idea for the story. It's like a cheap knockoff of the movie The Lighthouse with Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
I just wanted to do my own. I thought it was a cool concept. I was like, I have my own little version I want to do. Different characters, different situation, same situation, different characters, different uh universe, I guess you could say. But yeah, so I realized that I made the protagonist unintentionally. The protagonist was mimicking me in the fact that his biggest flaw that was screwing him over in the story was that he was sharing too much. He was talking too much. He was almost ranting. And so that's one thing I'd say is a perception of me that I'm a talker. I tend to tell too much, but I'd say the perception of myself is I really genuinely don't say anything I don't mean, and I try to be as honest as possible in everything I do. I try not to. I'd rather tell the truth and suffer the consequences than tell a lie and benefit. So.
Right on. So if anybody wants to get involved with AllTales, they want to reach out, any of the good business, where's the best place to go?
Alltales.com. You can go there on alltales.com. You can submit a support request. And right now the business is as big as me and my co-founder, so I get the support request. And so if you want to contact me, you can go there. We're about to be pushing a massive update. Today's November 4th. We're planning on about November 6th or 7th. We're pushing a very massive update to make the website 10 times better than it is right now. So if you go there, if this is live or if you post this within today or tomorrow, people go there, they're going to see it's they see the idea, but it's not the execution isn't as good as we want it to be, and we're pushing a very good update here soon. But yeah, I would say that's the best place to go
Right on.
to check out our product. They can make a book. You can, as of right now, you can make a book for free up until you want to order the physical copy. So you can go and get all the way to the ebook portion of it. Not downloadable, but it's just ebook. You can access it on the website. Obviously, down the road, we're gonna have to start charging for put some paywalls behind some stuff because it does cost us money on the back end to allow you to generate AI images and stuff like that. But for now, it's free just because we want users. So
Right on.
we're gonna eat the cost. But yeah, alltales.com.
I love it. What a wonderful concept. I'm going to put all the links out there. I should have this out pretty soon. Peyton, thank you, sir. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time. And best of luck. It's a brilliant idea. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.